It was a beautiful, warm spring day. The sun was shining, much like today in New York City. But where I was, I wouldn't get to enjoy it. I was stuck inside a conference room with the harsh fluorescent lights beaming down on me. We had been called into an emergency meeting with the vice president. He was not happy about something. The sun shining in the conference windows and the harsh fluorescent lights above me made me just want to shut my eyes and think of somewhere else I could be. The macro analysis must be prioritized, he says over the screen in a clipped, angry tone. The macro analysis was this complex Excel spreadsheet that most of us didn't even know how to do. I'm convinced that the people who did know how to do it had some graduate degree in Excel. Not me. We were also trying to express to the VP that the salespeople we work with don't want us doing this. They want us talking to customers. But he wasn't there for a conversation. He was there for a compliance. You need to do this because it's going to be part of your performance review. Ah, there it is. The stick. And where the stick is, usually, hopefully, there's a carrot to follow. He senses we're waiting for that, and he says, there's a $100 gift card if you can do 10 of these by the end of the week. A gift card? You mean those things I get in my birthday cards that I lose 90% of the time? I've just been gift carded. Let me explain something to you in corporate America. When somebody offers you a cash bonus that's outside of your salary for doing something, they know that nobody wants to do it. It's like when you were younger and you had a dog or a cat. Your parents didn't want to pick up the poop or scrape the litter box. So what did they do? They gave you an allowance. It's the same principle, just on a corporate level. Somebody starts to speak, and he cuts them off. And then he says, if you don't like it, you can leave. Silence. I can tell you there was not so much silence out in the parking lot after the meeting. But at that moment, all the energy in the room just drained and went out. And I thought about it. And something felt different that day. I had been in conference rooms like this thousands of times before. And I would promise fealty, surrender. But this time, it felt different to me. I'm 23 years old. I am petrified because I have just spent 5 years in college. No, I didn't get a graduate degree. I got a bachelor's in procrastination. But I have my first job interview, and I'm so nervous I think I'm going to have a nosebleed. What's making me so nervous is this question or this comment I hear they're saying to the interviewees. Tell me about yourself. I'm only 23. I don't know anything about myself. Let me tell you, though, I have some ideas about myself. I don't say anything. I walk. I'm sitting down in a chair that's suspiciously lower than his chair. He starts the meeting, the interview, and he says to me, I'm looking for a killer. I'm looking for someone who will break the china. I'm looking for someone who's been on a sports team and maybe has been a coach. I'm looking for someone who's going to take the bull by the horns. Yikes! How do I tell him that I don't identify with any of that? There's a part of me, of course, that really wants a nice fat wad of cash at the end of every month because mama and daddy aren't supporting me anymore and I need that. But I want to be seen. I want to be able to tell the truth. So I have a decision to make. Who of us in here has ever made the best decision in an interview when you feel so much pressure? So I lie. Yeah, I'm a killer. I'm a go-getter. I played on a sports team. I was in football. I was a line end. I can take those horns bulls and what am I supposed to do with the horns bulls again? And before I know it, I'm sharing a history that's not even mine. And I just keep spinning and spinning. And he starts to see that. And then he tells me his first lie, we'll call you. He didn't, of course. But I just had my first workplace interaction. And I made it completely meaningless. It had no value because I felt like he wanted to see me in one way that I wasn't. I wasn't seen that way. Eventually, I figure out how to play the game. Back then, you went to a bookstore and you brought a book on interviewing. So I figure out how to run the script. I get a job at a nice tech company. And I think, okay, now I can blossom and grow. I'm in a one-on-one meeting with my manager. And he looks at me and he says, Deanna, what do you want to do in this company? And I think, really? I can decide that? I had no idea. Well, I've always wanted to teach and educate other people. It's just been a passion of mine and it lights me up. And I'm thinking he's going to start connecting me to people. But what he does is he gets on the online directory and he looks under the heading of training. And then he starts giving me a list of names and says, you could email them, you could email them. It's like telling him, I want to work in a bank. And he Googles banks and says, oh, Wells Fargo, you should call them. I felt like I wasn't really supported in that moment because I have shared with him what I'd love to do. And when an employee shares that, both the company and the employee can win. But I was getting the vibes of just stay in your lane. That was the message I got. A few years later, I'm asked to copy my manager's goals and paste them into mine. And he copied his manager's goals and copied them. So you can see the domino effect. And by the way, Control V, Control C, I had that down. I didn't feel like there was any room to put what I wanted my goals to be. It was just copy and paste. Where was the individuality? Where was the chance to show him what I would have strengths in? I learned to copy and paste. One year, though, I decide I'm going all out. I am going to volunteer for everything I can. Yes, I'll be that employee. I agree to be the team lead. I lead the sales call. I work my butt off. And it comes time for performance review. And I got the equivalent of a B-. I was so angry. I started just pressuring the manager. It's never a good idea. I'm like, you tell me what it would have taken for me to get an A. And he can't tell me. He can give me a lot of corporate jargon, like, well, the synergies of the team and the recalibration, blah, 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 blah. I couldn't hear any of it because I found out that the person that got an A was really one of his best friends. And it wasn't about my performance. It was about being sorted. It was about being ranked on a bell curve. I felt so diminished. If you don't like it, you can leave. I snapped. It was different, as I said. This time, I left. I'd like to say I stood up and marched out of the conference room. See, that makes for a great story. But the wheels of freedom are turning in my head. And I did leave a couple of months later because I couldn't stay in a place where I was unseen, unsupported, and diminished. It was costing me more than I had to give. So I left. Not long after, I go to a Chamber of Commerce meeting. I had never been to this Chamber of Commerce meeting before. And I'm getting a little nervous because the person that was supposed to meet me there has not arrived. And I'm thinking, I should leave. I'll give myself 5 minutes. 2 minutes later, I think, okay, I'm walking out the door. And this man comes up to me. And he asked me the same question that the interviewer did. Tell me about yourself. This time, I didn't lie. I'm transgender. I just transitioned not that long ago. I lost my wife. I lost my kids. I was kicked out of the house. I was living in an apartment alone. And there were no kids to come running in and jump on the bed and say, "Pancakes, Daddy." My sisters called me and said, "We miss our brother." I talked about COVID and divorce and everything that was about me. And then I did the same for him. In that conversation, I felt so much value. I felt like I mattered. I didn't realize it until later, but that was the president of the Chamber of Commerce. Today, I'm the president of that chamber. It's the Harmony LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce located in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I do the same thing for the guest. A few years later, somebody comes up to me and says, "You need to tell your story." "Oh, sure, I'll tell you my story." No, not to me. I need you to go to the Monty. The Monty is a storytelling group, much like the Moth. But I'll be telling my story in front of 220 people. Again, I'm petrified because I still don't trust myself just yet. But I get up there. Everything disappears. The audience, the lights. I just pour out my story. All the pain, all the glory that I had been through, that we all go through. And when I finished, I got a standing ovation. And people came up to me afterwards and they said, Deanna, that was amazing. Listening to your story made me understand so much. I didn't realize. Or Deanna, that story mattered to me. Or I identified with that story. And in that moment, I felt lifted up. I felt strengthened. It was a wonderful feeling. I'm on a roll now. Lately, I've become a real conference junkie. There's some people in here who know this because I've seen them at conferences. Since I transitioned, I can't get in front of enough people. I'm at an industry conference, and there's a very smart consultant who is giving a presentation. She's wearing a sharp suit, and she's talking about the trends in the workplace as if they're established fact, talking about the culture. And she says, so the culture is now returning to the office. And also, the culture is we're moving away from DEI. And I'm thinking, don't you ask for questions? But I guess she couldn't hear me. Because she did say, are there any questions? Something that I would have never done, I did. I stood up and I decided to speak the truth. First of all, nobody wants to return to the office 8 hours a day with their butts in a chair when you haven't given them a good reason to. 73% of people will either take a pay cut or quit if you require them to come into the office. So the office culture, that's what we call executive nostalgia. Oh, we had to do it. And to me, that's like holding up an iPod that holds 20 songs and saying, look how great this is. No, we don't think it's great. And that is across the generations. A hybrid model works the best. And she's kind of nodding her head. I'm not finished yet. What you said about diversity, diversity is still top of mind for 80% of Gen Z and young millennials who are coming in your office to get a job. They want to know how diverse your company is. They want to know if you have ERGs, employee resource groups. That's what they're looking for. And in 5 years, 75% of the working population will be Gen Z and millennials. We're also going to experience 2 generations retiring. Don't you want to be able to attract those people? And in her polite North Carolina way, she says, thank you. I'm looking around to see if security's coming up anywhere. I had so many people come up to me and say, I love what you spoke about. And I thought, wait a minute, I wasn't the speaker. I know, because I've gotten paid nothing. And they stopped me and they said, no, the question you asked, you spoke the truth of what I was thinking. I had 5 or 6 people tell me that. I was thinking the same thing, but I didn't want to say anything. And I felt strengthened by that. The fact that I could name the unnamed, that I could stand up. I was strengthened. I wasn't diminished. I'm Deanna Jones, a keynote speaker, and I am on a mission to create spaces where people can feel seen, supported, and strengthened. Because when that happens, your people will believe in you. They will contribute. They will grow. And when your vision for your organization or your company aligns with theirs, magical things can happen. Every day, in ways big and small, we are creating the space around us. Is it a space where people will shrink, or is it a space where people will grow? Thank you.
Stay up there. Stay up there.
Oh, stay up here.
Yay!